So I would love to collaborate with physicians and other scientists like Dr. Norris to really assess the epigenetic contribution, okay? And epigenetics is not simply non-coding RNA. There are also methylation changes that can be of interest. So because some genes they don't need to be mutated, you just need to reduce their level of expression. And this is easy to do with methylation as well as with microRNA. So the answer is the theory is there. I showed you this morning that the target exists and the potential links, but I did not test myself, having not access at this time with the EDS patient, but I would love to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any other centers in Canada that could check for mRNAs?
The tests actually are performed only in my lab at St. Justine University Hospital. So we welcome patients from outside Montreal. We have some patients from Ontario that are able to travel to Montreal. We have also some even citizens from other countries that are coming in Montreal. The tests are free. But what we have in mind through the I Can't See Me research network, we would like to support the 3 additional ME/CFS center, one based in Vancouver, the other one in Toronto, and the third one in Halifax. So that in the next months, we will give the opportunity to the center to be funded to acquire the small machines that we use and the technology to do it. So it's not expensive. So that can be transferred almost overnight. And we have all the protocol. My lab is ISO certified, so I can transfer that to any diagnostic lab overnight. So this is a good news.
Thank you. In your experience, do you consider EDS to be a genetic predisposition for ME/CFS?
That's a pretty good question. If you are coming from the field of ME/CFS, it's clear that ME/CFS is not per se a genetic predisposition or conditions that will lead to EDS. So it must come from EDS first at some point. I would be very curious to look in, let's say, multi-generational families, several of them, to see if over time they develop ME/CFS. So you may have some pre-existing genetic condition with well-established variants that are associated with your EDS condition, but something else might happen. So a second strike where you will encounter COVID-19, for instance, or West Nile virus, or a very severe flu that can explain that you have also some kind of underlying conditions that may combine your EDS with ME/CFS. And this is what I think is a missing link in our studies right now. But that could be relatively easy to demonstrate at some point, having access to these large families where you can see a strong genetic predisposition.
Thank you. Do you know if there's any researchers or clinics or clinicians presently in Manitoba?
I know a lot of researchers and clinicians in Manitoba, but I'm not aware that some specialists or clinics, okay, there are certainly no clinics associated with I Can't See Me research network at this stage. So what we could do, there is a big new call for a long COVID research network, national research network, and we hope to through the long COVID initiative to embark more clinics and more physicians across Canada, because as I told you, up to 50% of the long COVID patients will develop ME/CFS over time. And that's the main reason why we need specialists across this country, and having at least specialists in every province and center that will be well supported, not just by dedicated funds, but also by a research team will be important. So I'm open to you. I just sent in the chat box my email. So if you know a physician interested, or you're a physician or researcher interested, please contact me and I will see what I can do with I Can't See Me or with this other initiative that I'm leading right now.
Great, thank you. Do you know if someone, do you know if there is research on EDS and intolerance or resistance to anesthesia drugs or genomics studies in EDs?
I'm not aware about the link with EDS and let's say intolerance to drugs, but the intolerance to drugs, it's very common in ME/CFS patients. So I wouldn't say beside the observation that this is well understand and characterized, but it's clear that one basic advice to physician is to whatever you prescribe, you always start with the lowest dose possible, okay, to start slowly and see what is happening and to increment the dose of the medication. So we are not suggesting, and this is based on the most recent guidelines too, that you shouldn't start, let's say, this is the basic treatment. You should start to, let's say, 20 milligrams of drug A. Everyone's doing that, yes, but everyone is not a normal person, okay? So that's why if you can start with 5 milligrams or 2 milligrams, okay, even if you don't see the effect, okay, let's work with your patient as a partner in his own treatment to see if there will be a graduate adjustment. Otherwise, the patient would cease the drug rapidly in less than 48 hours because the adverse effect would be terrible. So we know that, but I'm not aware about if really the very same thing happened in EDS. So again, maybe this is another commonalities between both conditions and deserve to be further investigated.
Understood.
Can I comment on that as well?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I don't have any research available. I only have anecdotal evidence and what I've heard from the doctors that I've spoken to. In my family, we all seem to be resistant to pain medication. When I had shoulder surgery in 2013, the local anesthetic that I had on a pump for my shoulder didn't work. I thought the pump had failed. And so I went back to the hospital and they checked it out and it was working fine. But whatever the dosage they had given me was not enough to touch the pain. I was then given a shot of, I can't remember the name of it, but I was given a high dose of something that was supposed to work as an anesthetic for about 2 hours, and it lasted for an hour. And then the doctor came back and he was confused that it hadn't lasted nearly as long as he expected. So he gave me one that was supposed to last for 4 hours and it lasted about 2. Again, he was surprised. And at that point, he's like, I don't know what else to do for you. You should see your own doctor. So it was, it was a little disappointing. But at that point, I had already had quite severe reactions to the barbiturates and the opioids that had been given to me previously. I'd been covered in hives earlier that day, so they didn't want to try anything like that again. So I know that I have pain intolerance problems medication-wise. My dad does, my sister does. It's documented in both my file at my doctor and my dad's file. But I don't, and haven't been able to find any research other than what I've experienced personally and what my OB told me when I went to meet with him, that sometimes it just doesn't work. And they don't know why, and he didn't seem particularly interested in finding out why.
I can tell you that I'm interested. So we can look at your families and eventually, so just contact me and I will see what we can do. Okay, at least we can look at the genetics level. We can eventually look at the epigenetic level. There are many mechanisms that remain unexplored, and we need to find an answer. That's it. So no answer is no response for you and your unmet needs. So we need to find an answer.
It's very unfortunate that happens in the industry, but hopefully we get it resolved. I'm going to read out Mona's question over here. She says, Dr. Moreau, my mother had genetic proven fibro and I have HEDS. My mom always thought that I had symptoms of fibro, but they are so similar. How do I tell the difference?
Now with the test that I presented today, okay, with these 11 microRNA, so we just one blood samples, okay, we can tell you if you really suffer of FM because the signature is so specific, okay. What we don't know is if the signature eventually will change if you have FM and EDS or FM without EDS. So that's why I'm interested to further explore the possible interactions, okay? But defensively, we are interested to collaborate to address that. And that's why we need tests, because it's a nonsense to wait 5 to 8 years to end up with a diagnostic that technically is by exclusion and based on some clinical symptoms, while you know, guys, that those symptoms mostly overlap with other conditions. So that's why we need to team up and work with everyone.
Thank you. What can we do to change ME being a fully accepted and not controversial diagnosis in long-term disability coverage? Too many get denied and there's still so much stigma.
I think we did a great step having the support of the federal government that initiate the creation of I Can't See Me Research Network. So that was an official governmental recognition when government puts some money to further support research, but would be openly mentioned to you guys that this is too little. It's never too late, but certainly too little right now. But we have a momentum, and at the end of the day, what we need is to go beyond simply opinions and views and publish the best science possible. That can be a game changer. Okay, since this paper in 2020, a lot of physicians contacted me and say, now I believe that this is a true disease and I will accept patients. One single paper. So as mentioned by Courtney and Dr. Nervis, that start with one person at a time, okay? I would say sometime with one patient, one paper at a time too. So, and that can be a game changer. So that's why we need to remove our sleeve and work harder, okay? And present the best science and convincing data. And having a national network on MSFS and your foundation on EDS and others organizations, we can change and turn the tables to make sure that people will start to listen, because we are dealing with diseases that are not rare diseases that affect hundreds of thousands, if not millions of individuals. And you will see that the complexity with the long COVID patient, okay, that will start to develop EDS-like symptoms too, as you know. So this should be seen as an opportunity to convince the authorities to further support our respective organization and researchers and clinicians to deal with these patients. So we have a good people in Canada, we have great specialists, but we need certainly more investment for sure.
That's good advice, thank you. Catherine, this question is for you. Do you have any tips on how to help reduce your symptoms?
It depends on what the symptoms are. If it's related to cleaning the house, I try and do only what is necessary and take it day by day. If it's related to pain, I found physiotherapy helps the most. I have a regular physiotherapist that I work with, as well as a pelvic floor physiotherapist. And doing those exercises at least 3 times a week has really helped me maintain my current level of mobility. I like Epsom salt baths, but I hate having to get into and out of the tub. I have a shower stool that's really great to use just to help with the pain and the fatigue at the end of the day. And just using my mobility aids when I need them. But I also have heating packs that I can use, and I use ice as well. And I really like Tiger Balm because it seems to help more than any over-the-counter medication that I've tried before, which doesn't work for everybody. And the smell, my sister can't stand it, but I don't mind it. It's like eucalyptus, but it's pretty strong. That's about all I've got. Sorry.
Thank you, Catherine. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. If there's anyone that actually wants to speak, please feel free to raise your hand and I will change the direction to you. But here's a question from Dawn. For a patient with HEDS and POTS and resistance to dental anesthetics, is it okay to have non-repinephrine with the dental anesthetics, or better not to?
First of all, I cannot give you any medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor. So, but I would presume, and again, if you are POTS, you might have very high level of norepinephrine already, okay? This high level will be probably very present early in the morning, okay? And the good thing is, because you will be lying down, okay, that will reduce your norepinephrine as opposed that you stand up. So I don't know you, so I don't have any values, but I know the values for some patients. So most of the patients at baseline, and they are in supine, so they are laying down when we do the stress test, their value are very similar to control, even though that are suffering a very severe POTS. When we put them in the vertical position or after the stress test, this is where we saw the difference, okay? The plasma level of norepinephrine are very high because the net transporter cannot promote the uptake of the circulating norepinephrine inside the cells. So probably if you lay down enough, okay, adding norepinephrine during the procedure wouldn't be so detrimental about that, but that would base on your discussion with your dentist for the procedure. And I cannot give you any further advice beside what I know from what we are measuring right now, okay?